6 months after Russia invaded Ukraine, Vladimir Putin wants to expand the country's armed forces. Currently, Russia has a limit of just over 1 million military personnel, and Putin wants to increase this number by nearly 10%. He wants to add 137,000 more service personnel to the armed forces. And the Russian president's order takes effect on the 1st of January. But it did not specify whether it is for volunteers or conscripts. So there is still no clarity on what the army will do to beef up its ranks. Will they draft a bigger number of conscripts, or will they increase the number of volunteer soldiers, or use a combination of both? Now, this comes as the West believes at least 70,000 to 80,000 soldiers were killed in the Ukraine war. All Russian men between the ages of 18 and 27 must serve 1 year in the army, but a large share of men manage to avoid this. They cite health reasons or education exemptions. Most of these men who dodged the draft are from Moscow and bigger cities. The army usually rounds up draftees twice a year, once on the 1st of April and again on the 1st of October. Initially, Russia had denied sending conscripts to Ukraine, but reports suggested otherwise. Conscripts were seen forced to sign contracts. Many were even taken prisoners. Under Russian law, conscripts must undergo 4 months of training before going to war. So how exactly do the armies of Ukraine and Russia compare? These figures are from before the invasion. Ukraine had a little over 1 million soldiers, while Russia around 3 million soldiers. Russia has not provided numbers of how many troops were lost, but they are desperate to attract new recruits, clearly. The authorities are even coming up with new lucrative schemes. And this includes offering huge sums of money, plots of land, and even premium place for their children in schools. Recruiters are even rushing to Russian prisons, and they are allegedly promising inmates freedom and money to join the military. On social media and on television, the messages are incessant as well. They are regularly asking men to sign up. There are even billboards put up across Russia, urging men to sign short-term contracts with the army to fight in Ukraine. Private military companies like the Wagner Group are also being roped in. They are being used to reinforce the frontline forces as the Kremlin faces troop shortages amid the Ukraine war. And with me on the broadcast this minute is Fred Flietz from Washington, D.C. He is the president for the Center for Security Policy and a CIA analyst. Fred, good to have you with us on the broadcast. What is your assessment of this move by the Russian president? What do you make of the timing?
Well, the timing is interesting because we're at a critical time in the war when it appears that Ukraine has the initiative and may be poised to take back territory. This is partially because of the effective use of the HIMARS missile system that is allowing it to take back or to attack Russian positions behind the line, Russian artillery, Russian weapons dumps. And the Russians know that if Ukraine makes significant gains right now, this could be a much longer war. But if they defeat Russia, if they defeat Ukraine now, this could threaten Western aid for Ukraine. The Russians have lost a lot of troops, and I think Putin is trying to find a way of increasing the number of troops without significantly increasing domestic discontent.
Is this another sign, according to you, that Russia underestimated the strength of Ukraine's resistance?
There's no question about that. Russia thought that Ukraine would be much weaker. They drew the wrong lessons from their seizure of Crimea in 2014, when the Ukrainian army was weak and disorganized. Ukraine made a decision then that that would never happen again. But another point is that Russia's army was weak and disorganized. It was not in any way prepared for this invasion. So these troops, Putin can't simply bring in more troops. He has to bring in better trained troops.
And what is unclear at this point is whether this will be a combination of volunteer soldiers or whether they will be using conscripts. But as of now, reports have been talking about how, again, Russia has been in denial or has not really spoken out about the number of soldiers it has already lost in the Ukraine conflict.
Well, the Russians are trying to say they're only sending volunteers to Ukraine. That's clearly not true. They prefer not to draft people and send them to Ukraine, or at least not make it public that they're doing that. And another problem, which you mentioned, is draft evasion. There's massive draft evasion in Moscow and in other cities. So the government has to find a way to find fighting age men and women, and really it's mostly men, to send into Ukraine.
Fred, thanks very much for being here on the broadcast and sharing those perspectives.
Good to be here.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.